is April 15th, 2022. I thought I would give you a tour of my very early spring garden. So we are still having temperatures below freezing just about every single night. We had a couple days where it didn't get that cold. We were really worried that our trees would start blossoming and then we would lose those blossoms. But so far we've had nights below freezing that's keeping everything kind of held back. Looks like that's about to wrap up here in the next couple of days, and then I don't see in the future forecast, the 15-day forecast, I don't see any nights below freezing after Easter Sunday. So I'm pretty excited about that, but I figured I'd show you our plants and how they're doing, just tell you a little bit about them in case you're interested in growing a spring garden yourself. So here behind me we have my cold frame, and I built this out of recycled pallets. This side I'm using it to harden off my plants. So I've already planted most of these plants, and these are just my extras in case my other ones couldn't quite survive the cold. And these have done fantastic in here with the cold nights. Very little damage to the lower leaves, but ultimately they look pretty healthy. And then my chives happened to be planted with them, so they're out here even though they're quite small themselves. This was an experiment of planting ponderosa pines from seed, and I think they're so cute when they come up with their little needles on them. Fun seeing how those grow. Then over here I thought maybe I'd get some greens started early, but no, that wasn't really the case. So with these, I planted them and it took at least a month for them to come up. And I planted tatsoi, which we do have some tatsoi mixed in with a few weeds here. This is kochia, which is really annoying. This is my compost that I bought from the dump in Kearney. It's really awesome that they provide that service at a relatively low price, and so if it has a few weed seeds in it, I'm still happy with it. But anyways, the soil temperature I don't think got warm enough in here to germinate these seeds as early as I wanted them to, but they are up now, not an excellent germination rate. So I'll probably go through and put some transplants in here eventually and fill in the spaces. For now I'm okay with it because I have all my summer crops that I'm gonna have to harden off, and I think this cold frame is an excellent way to do it. My spinach had my best germination rate and it is very happy. Still a little slow to get started, but that's okay. Oh, and I was not certain about these and what they were. I didn't think it was corn salad or claytonia. I'm pretty sure it's a weed. But I've never grown those two before, and so I wasn't quite sure what they would look like when they came up. And it looks like I only have 2 radishes. We're not a huge fan of radishes, but I do want to give it a try. So I'll probably plant some more of those, and I had 0 kale come up. So I don't know, I might try planting them again, or I'll just transplant some of my seed starts. Okay, I thought I'd give you an overall view of my garden. I wouldn't say it's well planned out. It's just kind of been growing as we grow and put it where it will fit. Originally, we didn't garden much at all in our yard, but when my kids were little and running around and I wanted to spend time in the garden, I just felt better having them in the fenced yard as opposed to elsewhere on the farmyard where there's a lot of equipment, machinery, metal, junk, just dangerous things for little kids to be getting into. You can see right back there behind that building was where our original garden was, and we still garden back there, but it's not our main garden anymore. Our main garden has been this one right here. Okay, so we have some fruit trees in the back. We have a peach tree, we have 2 sweet cherry trees, an apple tree, another apple tree, and then in the corner way back there we have a weeping cherry tree, which is just supposed to be a beautiful tree, and we've had trouble with half of it getting frozen off. Actually, I think all of it got frozen off, and then it came back from the base, so I don't know what'll become of that tree. And then we have a pear tree that has never produced a thing despite it being there for at least 11 years now. It's supposed to be self-pollinating, but this year I went ahead and ordered a second pear tree that's between those 2 boxes right there, and hopefully that will help our other pear tree produce. However, when we first get started, we bought the cheapest fruit trees we could, and I think we've probably paid for that because they just haven't done what they should have done. Our apple trees back there are also 11 or 12 years old, and they've only produced a few apples 1 year. So they've been really disappointing. Our peach trees, however, did fantastic. That one back there, and we did have one where that new pear tree is that died 1 year. So we had a wonderful crop off them a couple of years, and we would love to get peaches again. And then this tree right here is our sour cherry tree, and it is our most prolific and reliable producer. So we've been watching the blooms on it, and it seems to be holding off, which is probably why we've had so much success. It doesn't seem to bloom very early, and we have so many cherries on this tree, and it's a delight, and it makes wonderful desserts and cobblers, and really enjoy this tree, and it just looks so pretty. And we don't do a lot of pruning on this one. It seems to be fine without very much pruning at all. So this is my new bed, and this is an attempt at no-dig gardening. So I have some compost here in the middle, and then I put mulch on this side to try to help with the weeds. I know our weeds are going to come through this mulch, so hopefully it'll at least make it easy to pull them out and I can keep up with it. So because of our cold nights, we've got this covered. So we'll try to peek under here and see what we can find. So under the frost blanket, we also have a insect netting. I have it, and so I figured I might as well use it to try to protect these plants from insects as well. So under here we have some cabbage, and I think it's looking pretty good. I'm excited to be able to take this frost blanket off and kind of watch them a little closer. It's hard to see under here. The camera can get in there, but I cannot get in there. I did water it yesterday because I think it was getting dry. This compost seems to be hard to get moist, but I think the cauliflower is looking like it's going to be okay so far. And then as we go down the line, I don't know how much you can see, but we have kale and spinach and lettuce and bok choy and all these things, and I'll give you a better look at them sometime whenever we have them uncovered. Okay, another bed that I recently planted. I actually have built these boxes, all 4 of these, this winter. We had really nice winter weather, not nearly as cold as normal, and very dry, no precipitation, pretty much all winter, some light dustings of snow, but that's about it. So I built these boxes. This was originally the route I was going to go this year until I decided to expand significantly and go the no-dig method. But in the meantime, I have these boxes, and so in this one I planned broccoli and cauliflower, and so you can see them in there. Let's see, it's cauliflower on this side and broccoli on that side, and they've taken a little bit of a hit. I think you can see on that one right there, they took a hit from the cold, but overall I think they're going to be fine. I see new leaves setting out on them. I think they're going to do well, so I'm really excited about these. I actually have never grown broccoli or cauliflower since I think my first year gardening, because they were so full of those cabbage worms, and it just made it really unpleasant to eat, and I didn't want anything to do with it, so I gave up and I figured I'll just buy them at the store. But I watched a blog, Susan's in the Garden actually is the one that I watched, and she is really good at pest management, and so she showed me she puts garden tulle from like wedding dresses and stuff over her broccoli and cauliflower and keeps the worms off of it. And so I just bought this insect netting and I'm putting it over it, and I hope that'll solve my problem and I'll be able to grow broccoli and cauliflower for my family, because we particularly really love broccoli. We all like broccoli. And so it'd be really a great success if I can succeed at growing some broccoli this year and then expand it going forward. Okay, the next bed on down the way has my garlic. Now, I didn't really get focused on my garden until last fall, and I decided I was just going to go all in and I was going to try to grow as much of our own food as I possibly could. And so garlic, I've read, ideally is planted in the fall, but I didn't get there in time. And so I found some soft neck variety, which I read you can start in the spring. I don't know what success I will have, but I'm going to give it a go. And you can actually see that some of my California soft neck garlic variety has already come up. And so that's really exciting. And this dirt is also, the soil is also the compost that I got from the municipal dump. And I'm not really sure what these mineral looking colors are. But we did have it soil tested, and it tests good. It tests for good compost, pretty standard average compost. And so we're expecting good results from it. We do have these weeds I have to come and pull every once in a while. They're not getting very big yet, but I do pull them whenever I get a chance. This next box is going to be celery for sure, and probably some onions. And then in the back row, we planted peas. And our peas are coming up. They're my little one's favorites. And so I'm excited for her to be able to just come out and pick these peas, which I can hopefully get over there to that fence to keep them from falling over on whatever else ends up in this bed. But it's very exciting to see things up, and the frost doesn't seem to be hurting them at all. And then our last bed is my carrot bed, and it also has peas all along the back row there. I found it interesting. I planted them so close to the edge that because of the more southern sun, they're actually shaded for a good chunk of the day, and so they came up white and kind of sickly looking, and some of them didn't make it, but I think the ones that are coming up now are looking quite healthy, so we should have some peas. My carrots, on the other hand, have been so slow to germinate because it's just been too cold. And you can see, I think you can see right there that we do have a few carrots up. And so I'm having to water constantly. It feels moist down in there still, so that's good. But I'm having to water a lot to try to keep this moist for my carrot seeds. Okay, so I mentioned our pear tree that has never produced in the, I think, 11 years that we have had it. And in the past, you know, we didn't worry too much about it. We're just like, oh, well, it'd be nice if it produces. But we're really wanting it to produce. I've been watering it most of the winter, and I look at these beautiful, I think, blossoms. I don't think they're leaves because they're pink. And we've been really nervous with the frost that we've been having, that it's going to destroy them. I actually notice a little bit of color on them, like brown color, so I don't know what that means for it. We definitely are not experts on any of our fruit trees, but we are trying. We have some that are still, we're going to be really excited if this tree ever produces fruit. So maybe our new one that's planted will help with that. This bed last year was just kind of an afterthought. I'd ordered strawberries that I put in that bed, but there were too many to fit. And so I left the strawberries in the house for a few days, and I built this raised bed to put the extra. But just that couple of days in the house made those strawberries not do so well. So we only had a few of them survive when I transplanted them out here. And they really don't look alive this year. I added some of that compost to this bed because it had dropped pretty low in levels. So ultimately, this is probably not going to be a strawberry bed much longer. I planted my overflow garlic in here. Sorry, we live on a busy road and the trucks go by all the time. And I planted one potato plant here because it was something left over from last year, and I just threw it in there. Here is my strawberry bed, and you can tell the frost has been a little rough on them. But they should be just fine. They should come out of it. They were not very far advanced. I was excited when they did come up because I was not an expert in strawberries at all. And usually once they produced, I just let them fend for themselves. Well, here in Nebraska, we don't get a lot of rain, and these raised beds do not hold water. They drain well, which is I think why so many people like them in very wet environments. But here in Nebraska, they need water regularly from a hose, from something other than the sky, because we don't get enough. There's the noisy trucks. But I pretty much neglected them in the fall, and I didn't water them, and I don't know what that'll do, because I've read now that strawberries really need a lot of care in the fall, because that's when they're putting all their work into the fruit that they're going to have the next year. So I'm happy they're alive, but I'm not expecting great things. I've been watering them since about January, but I didn't water them very much this fall, so we'll see what they do. Here is my wheat bed. So this was originally our strawberry bed, and it did really well for us for a while, and then the vineweed took it over. So last year we killed all that, we took it all out, and we planted potatoes. So we had potatoes in this bed, and then when we dug up the potatoes in the fall, I have wanted to grow wheat for a long time. I just wanted to experiment. I wanted to learn the process, see how it was done, and so we hand sowed some wheat. We don't have a very good coverage in this bed at all, but we do have wheat. Looks just like grass. My goal was to be able to grow enough wheat to make one loaf of bread. So maybe we'll still get that accomplished. I really don't know. I've never grown wheat before. But in all these extra spots, I'll probably throw in onions, probably mostly onions, and just try to fill it up, not waste the space. Seems to be pretty good growing space. Back here we have raspberries, and we have our red raspberries here, and then we have yellow raspberries on this side. The yellow raspberries are good, but ultimately we like the red raspberries better. Normally we prune them back every winter, and we cut off all the canes, and then we get a fruit crop the following fall. So these ones that I've cut back all the way will come up soon, and they'll produce in the fall. However, this type of blackberry will also produce a spring crop if you leave the old canes. And my husband's never really liked that idea, but I want to see, and so we are experimenting. So that's why you'll see some canes that are left in here. We're hoping to get an earlier crop from these, as well as a late crop. Another thing that's fun about our raspberries is that praying mantises have seemed to enjoy them, and they left their eggs all over them. I think we have 6 or 7 praying mantis egg sacs in here. And so I've heard that they'll hatch as the weather warms up in the spring. So I gotta be checking on these every day until I see little baby praying mantises come out. So we are hopeful on our apple trees, but ultimately what we're seeing right now is just leaves. Might be another bust year for our apple trees. However, we did plant 5 brand new ones that are from a much more reputable company that look healthier when they arrived. So we are going to try to fix our problem if our problem is bad stock to begin with. Over here, my husband really wants to grow sweet cherries. Supposedly they grow in our zone. Every one we planted has died. This one currently is alive and looks like it's going to do something. Not sure what, but something. The second one he planted was a different variety, but it did freeze off and came back probably from the rootstock. So we don't really know what kind of tree we will have here as well. And then our favorite tree is our peach tree, because we have gotten a lot of peaches from this tree, and we love dehydrating them, eating them fresh, making desserts. Oh, they're just so good. And last year we didn't get no peaches, and so we're really hopeful this year. That bud is so beautiful. The camera does not like to focus on these. We are really excited. We just keep hoping that they won't open before it's time, and then they freeze. Lastly, we have this garden, which will be my summer garden. As you can see, I have trouble with this weed barrier. The wind even blows the T-posts. It is just terrible. Gotta keep it right at the edge. And then I've got to cover it with a pallet. Try to keep it down. So this is where I had tomatoes last year. We use these recycled old irrigation pipes from the big fields. We cut them down, and they protect our tomatoes from the wind in the spring when we transplant them. And I've told my husband I need lots more this year because I'm going to expand my tomatoes a lot. And on this side is where I had my peppers. Quite a few different types of peppers, and they did great last year. And then the only thing growing in here right now, other than a few weeds, is peas. And so I planted these at the same time as the ones in the raised bed. And as you'll see, the weed barrier warms up the ground way faster than just the ground itself. So if we look under here, there's our peas. And they look a little bit rough because they're having to be covered because of these cold temperatures. But here in a few days, we'll take this cover off and just let them go crazy and grow, grow, grow. We don't have perfect germination rate, but we have a very satisfactory germination rate. So these here are snow peas. And then I do have a few at the end of this row that are shell peas only, and everything else I planted are snap peas. So that's my early spring garden tour of our home place. We have a property just a quarter mile down the road, and that is where I have my no-dig garden, as well as the new apple trees that we planted. So I will take you down there, hopefully tomorrow. I should take you down there tomorrow and show you what's going on down there. Totally experimental to me, brand new, but I've done a lot of research. Here's my flower bed, and it's been relatively empty the last few years, just a burden to weed, but I'm going to fill it up this year. I'm going to create a place that the bees like to come, because I need bees, especially for all my produce and my fruit trees. We really need to attract those bees here. And I like the flowers. They make me happy, they make my kids happy. I really like my hyacinth back there. I think you can see it. That one really makes me happy because purple is my favorite color. So I hope you enjoyed this. Ask me any questions. I'm no expert, but I do have a passion for gardening, and I'm learning as much as I can. Give me advice too if you can on my fruit trees. Anything I'm doing wrong that you notice, go ahead, tell me. I'll read it and take it into consideration. This is where we originally started our garden. My father-in-law was kind enough to give us this piece of land, and so this is our space, and it is on the south side of the building, so we get great sun back here. It can be kind of windy when those south winds come through, and so we do not plant our main garden here anymore. This is my husband's project, and he fills it up with melons. He loves to grow watermelon. He also occasionally will grow cantaloupe for me. We've done a few squashes in here, even though he's not a huge fan of squash. Would rather not grow it at all, but he has grown some for me out here. And then we have our asparagus bed. So we have this one had grown strong, but then that cold just destroyed it. It won't kill the plant. I actually see a brand new asparagus coming up right next to it. And then back there we have some. We can't pick the skinny ones. It's too hard on the plant, and so we're waiting for the bigger ones. We have picked a few. I'm collecting them in the fridge in a cup of water. That'll keep it nice and fresh until we get enough to make a meal for us out of it. And I see a couple more back there that we should be able to pick here in a couple days if the frost tonight doesn't get to them. Okay, here I am at our other property. It's the next day, and I figured I'd give you a tour of what we have going on over here. We hope to expand here a lot in the next couple of years. This year we have a lot going on over here, but not nearly as much as we planned to have going on over here. So behind me we have where we planted our 5 new apple trees. We also have our friendly cows. Those belong to my father-in-law. They're still calves, haven't had babies yet, but they're very friendly and very curious every time we come over here. So we have our apple trees, and we have 5 different types of apple trees here that we are growing. Okay, here I am right in front of our new no-dig beds that we built. We have 12 of them, and they're 50 foot long each, and we built them with compost that we got from the dump. They compost yard waste from people as they bring it in, and then they sell the compost back at a very reasonable price. We've discovered it does have weeds in it, which is okay so far. We're being able to pull out the little bits that come up. It has pretty good nutrition. We had it tested, and so that's good. We have seeds germinating and plants growing in it, so nothing's too hot or doesn't seem to be chemicals in it that's causing any problems. So we're pleased with it so far. And then the mulch, they give back to people for free. You just have to come get it. I think they're almost out for the year, so we're glad we got it when we did. But here we don't have a lot going on yet. We have peas in this first row here, and then we have carrots in the next row, and both of them are up, but you can hardly see them. And then we have couple rows of potatoes, and we do have just a few potatoes up. The ones that had come up before the really cold spell got frozen off, but there wasn't very many of them, so I think the rest will probably be fine. So behind me, you can see our pollinator bed. This is going to be full of flowers, some from seed, some from plants that we're going to put in here. We use the same compost as we used on the rest, but we just grabbed some of these logs from the woods and built this bed here. Eventually I'd love to have a more permanent flower area over here, but as you can see, we have all these dilapidated buildings in the background and the old house that really is not in a livable state. And eventually we'll hopefully get these things cleared out of here and be able to make this side of the property our flower side. I'd love to have like a water feature and a bunch of different flower beds that just looks really pretty. But for now, we need something to attract the bees because we need them for our fruit trees and our vegetable garden. So that's what this bed is for.
She planted these. Oh, right there. And there. Whoa, look at the onions! Mama, the yellow ones are up.
Hooray!
And then guys, let's take a look at the ones that. So many onions. I don't see any but
Look right here.
Mama, there's also a weed that I
Why are there two onions coming out of the same spot?
Because each eye sends up stuff. And so you'll get numerous shoots for one potato plant. And these, we planted the whole potato, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll get lots of shoots.